The Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting, October 16th, 2012, with the salute to the flag, please. Okay, thank you. Mrs. Poland, take the roll, please.
Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Here.
Okay, thank you. We're going to begin our meeting with item number 1, obviously, public comment. Reminding everyone 5 minutes per person, 45-minute maximum. Mr. Gray is getting the sign-in sheets for us. Thank you, Mr. Gray. First name is Roland Kinney.
Roland Kinney, Falls Township. It's a nice day Saturday, wasn't it, gentlemen?
Wonderful.
Nice day up there. I think I'm going to talk a little about politics tonight and get myself in trouble. I'm a Democrat. I've been a Democrat all my life. But I voted Democrat last big election. This election, though, there's only one Democrat I see that I fully support, and that's John Galloway. He's a young, good gentleman. Anything you ask him to do, he'll break his back trying to get it done, and his people in his office will bend over backwards for you. And the rest of them, I heard them speak. I heard them speak at the Township Center, the Senior Center. No. Mike Fitzpatrick, I think he's doing a good job. And then we go up the line, and Casey, I voted for him last time because of his father. Nothing like his father. Then we get to the presidency. Before I came here, I was watching a little TV. Takes you 2 cents to make a penny now. And it's Green Jobs 123. The company was called 123 something. Declared bankruptcy today that we gave a lot of money to. And tonight's debate should settle for me. But I see too many kids getting out of college, getting these fantastic educations, and coming out and there's nothing out there. Flitz burgers. Then I see a young lady down in Florida on TV. She swings on a pole, makes $60,000 to $80,000 in tips a night, a year, and she gets food stamps. I don't know. Our country's going to bankruptcy if we don't stop it. We need somebody to get the thing moving again and get us back to work. I mean, I work, but very few days, but. You got to work in this country. All right, that's all I have to say. Now I can be kitsch. I watch myself leaving the township building. Good night. Thank you.
Okay. Gal Sobert.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Gallo Sobert. Mr. Harvey, I'd like to take the mic and move it over to the map, if I may.
It's fine.
Okay.
Sure.
Sit back, gentlemen, and enjoy the show. And as far as Mr. What was his name? He's a good guy, even though he's a Democrat. That's okay. Bear with me, please. What I'm going to talk about tonight, okay, is some maps that I've come up with. Some from the county, some from the website, some from my own files, some from the township, and so forth. Stay right there, sir. No, this. Hold on, please. And I'll put these two up. If you'd be so kind.
Yes.
Here we go. This one's got color. Take that one off. Right there.
Right.
Thank you, sir. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what I want to talk about tonight is I happened to catch the Courier Times article about 2 or 3 weeks ago concerning Biles Island. And I, doing a little engineering like this gentleman here in front of me does now and then, I added some of the figures up, and I read some of the comments in the paper, and I thought, something's not right. Because here we are, we have already spent or adjusted for $724,000 or $26,000, and we don't even own it. Why are we spending money on stuff we don't own? The property we're talking about happens to be this piece here called Biles Island. That winds up being 579 acres. That's a nice piece of property. I have this map that I got in 1954, and it shows Biles Island, and it shows a few little puddles, okay? Well, you go on a website, and you cut and paste a couple together, and you, gee whiz, you got a couple more puddles. Maybe we're going to call it Puddle Island instead of Biles. This map is from the county tax records. It shows an island. It doesn't show any water in there. Well, let's see, what can you do with water? Well, you can swim in it, dunk in it, play with it, drink it maybe, and so forth. Except that if you look at this map here, you got 3 big puddles of water that are green. Well, I guess I won't drink that. In the article, Mrs. Hellier also said that the township talked about possibly a skating rink. You know what? We got a skating rink at Lake Caroline. We've had it there for 60 years. County comes down and chases everybody off. What are we going to do with this thing here with 7 puddles? 8 puddles, maybe more. Gentlemen, I don't like the way you're spending my money. You spend $26,000. That's almost $250,000 we could do with something, do something better with. I don't know when they plan on giving it to us, but I wouldn't take it. I'd let them pay taxes on it. 579 tax acres. On this map, from the county tax maps, I have it colored here, and that says bridge. That's where they intend to put the bridge, tie-in 29. There's 12 acres are going to be taken away for that bridge. So that means that that's going to be split. Now, we get all these people coming over to this fabulous island to play in a water park. Who's going to pay all the salaries and maintenance and so forth? We already gave away $700 and some thousand. Why are we giving away more? Why don't you just say, hey, Waste Management, you can keep the island, we don't want it, pay your taxes, we'll be happy. All these maps are available on the website, in the township, in the county, and so forth. So I'm not giving you guys anything super secret. But I looked at that and I thought to myself, holy mackerel. They already blocked it off when they put this easement here so that they could come around here and take out all the dirt and stone or whatever it is. They're not done yet, but I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lakes in there already that are going to take a big chunk out of that 579 acres. Gentlemen, you're supposed to be businessmen, school teachers, smart, and in my opinion, it's not being smart spending $729,000 for something we're not going to use. You're going to pay maintenance on it from now until doomsday, forever and ever and ever. I thank you for the time. I hope I made an impression. Probably not. I've been with this township for 47 years, and sometimes it's like spitting into the wind, as they say, into the Navy. It winds up coming back all over your dress blues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For the record, I don't recall specifically the article written by Mrs. Hellier. She typically does a very good job covering the township. But the township has not spent $724,000 on Biles Island. We haven't spent anywhere near that much. I know the proposal we looked at recently was, I think, $48, something like that, $1,000 to continue looking for grant money. We asked the state for grant money that would be upwards, I think, of, I forget how much we asked for originally, $400,000, I think, or something like that. Just because you ask, we're going to be getting about $100,000. Plus, we have about $900,000 we're getting from the county for this. And so any money we've spent so far has solely been on engineering. And at this point, we're looking at using a very small section of that, which is pretty much already overgrown in terms of, we're not overgrown necessarily, but it's already grown in terms of vegetation. There are already trails there that are used by Waste Management, so there's really not a whole lot of construction has to go except for building an access road or building some kind of access way. So, and I understand the concern. We've heard other people with the concerns about Biles. I think at this point we are keeping a pretty good eye on what we're doing and spending what we need to, only what we need to begin looking at the smallest portion of that island that we can get access to, which is ready for us to use as soon as we can sort of, get the plans in terms of how to get on there and segregate it from the rest of the facility, which is still a working site for Waste Management. And I think people will be very impressed once they're there, and I think they'll enjoy it. We're looking to add to public recreation, which we've done a lot of here on this board recently, and going back since I've been on here, and Mr. Snipes has been on here obviously the longest, whether it's a skateboard park or a dog park or improving Pinewood Pool or improving all of the playgrounds in the township, tennis courts, and the soccer fields we're doing, baseball fields, money to the Little League organizations. I mean, we've put a lot of money into park and recreation. I think to me, I think that's a valuable thing, and I think a lot of the board members agree. But we hear the concerns, and we understand that not everybody's going to like everything we do, and that's part of the game. But we do, we do appreciate people's input. Those are the only names I have on the list. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in public comment? No? Okay.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes, yes, Mr.
Can I
Obert.
just show something on this map that I failed to mention?
Mr. Ober, I'll give you a few more minutes, just out of respect for you, to show us a couple things, understanding, of course,
I
that,
only want to show you one thing.
that's fine. You're going to need a microphone.
On this map, you'll see areas of green, and the color code says in green that it's existing open space. How much more open space do we want to give to these people? Okay? We're going to be paying for it. We're landlocked. You're not going to build many more homes and so forth like that. And all the articles that you mentioned about soccer fields and so forth, that's fine. People are using them. That's like the boat ramp. You put the boat ramp in there, it costs us what, 1.2 million?
1.1, I think.
Something like that? Yeah, and you got 80 applicants to use it. That's not a good ratio, sir. Thank you.
Well, thank you. All right, item number 2 on our agenda, we have several ordinances we're adopting this evening. All of these have been advertised for a few months, I think at least. And we have 6 of them we're looking at this evening in addition to the normal things like the minutes, and then the second meeting we always look at bill list and engineer's report. So first item on our agenda, or first ordinance to look at adopting, is focused on Chapter 120, Section 6, optional payment of fines, violations and penalties regarding littering. I'll turn it to Mr. Gray, and then he can turn over to, I know Mr. Bennett's going to cover some of these, but I know we have our solicitors here, Ms. Gallagher and Mr. Clark, who also can speak on these.
Yes, as mentioned, this is adopting an amendment for Chapter 120. This was approved by the Board of Supervisors on August 21st for authorization advertised. As mentioned, it was properly advertised. Here tonight to discuss this item further is Mr. Tom Bennett, zoning officer.
Good evening. With going through a few of the ordinances, we just found that some of them were outdated, and the fine for dumping or littering, it was a $10 fine. So we felt we had to increase that and bring it up to today's standards. That's the reason for that one.
Okay. Comments or questions from board members for Mr. Bennett or Ms. Gallagher, who worked on this? Seems pretty
My only
self-explanatory.
comment is Mr. Obert's about to leave with the headphones.
Yeah. Remind Mr. Obert that he has to, those headphones are the townships, he has to kind of turn those in. All right, thank you. All right. Mr. Galloway, comments or questions?
No comment.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, the fine of not more than 500. Explain to me again, how is it determined, the actual amount of the fine?
So it could be less than 500, so it could be 300, it could be 200.
By the judge, or we would fine them $500. Usually when you go to the judge, she lessens the fine. It's just I guess to take a dump truck, a truckload of material to the landfill is going to probably cost you $300 or $200, and the fine used to be $10, so you're better off taking a chance dumping on the side of the road. And just so happened one night I was on my way home from work, and I caught a contractor dumping a load of blacktop in a vacant lot. And that's what brought this up, because then I looked up the fine and I said it's $10. So that's what initiated.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dents?
No, that answers everything for me.
Mr. Rocco?
I have no questions. Thanks, Mr. Bennett.
I don't have any either. It's pretty self-explanatory, especially with that story from Mr. Bennett. Any public comment needed? See one hand. Motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Mariani?
Thank you. When this came up the last time, I had asked that if we're going to have this kind of an ordinance, the only thing I don't understand about this ordinance, it says road, street, highway, lane, which more than one owner has the right to use. And I always felt we should include, beside the fine, the cost of the cleanup if someone dumps stuff, so on and so forth. I don't see that here. This, I don't know that the language doesn't also consider something like littered properties, which I think should be included in this kind of an ordinance. This ordinance I compare, and I'm going to need some help from our counselors, to Title 18 in Chapter 65. And that goes on to say that if you dump on any public or private property, which this ordinance doesn't say, then for a summary offense, when I followed that, $50 or $300, no more than $300, what we have here is $500. However, if you follow that, that's for a summary offense. When you get to the second offense, that goes $300 to $10,000, or in prison or community service for up to 5 years, which is considerably different than this, and it would be something that I think we ought to do. I think this is not as strong as I would like to see it. Quite frankly, what I'd like to see, and I want to ask our attorneys, if we can do that, if you go to the Environmental Protection Code, which is Title 25, if you get somebody that dumps something that's caustic, you know, gallons of gasoline, tar, whatever it is, could we not pursue that using the DEP, provided that one of our elected officials here, or the leading elected official here, can pursue that? Now, when you get into that, then you investigate a violation, and if you take a look at some of the penalties can go to civil penalties and can triple the amount that it would cost us to remediate whatever these people have done. So I understand this ordinance. Quite frankly, I think it's a little weak. I think we ought to consider something a little stronger, especially having these people pay a penalty that would get them to say, you know, Falls Township's not the kind of place we want to dump. Shouldn't be any place they want to dump. But is there any chance we can pursue that under the EP Department of Protection under Title 25? And I'd leave that to our attorneys. I don't know. I'd like to see that. I think the penalties are in line with what we need. I don't know what would happen if somebody came here and dumped some oil on your property or on township property. You're not going to clean that up for $500. So please consider something a lot stronger. Right. And can we pursue it from the Department of Environmental Protection? I don't know. Our attorneys can probably tell us that. Thank you.
Thank you. No, it's all good points. My presumption is that if anyone dumps something that large, this technically could cover someone who's driving down the street and throws a cigarette butt out the window, which is littering because that's not biodegradable. You know, so that would be covered by this. My presumption is that anybody who dumps something large, like you're talking about, not only would they face this, they would face us suing them to make them clean it up. But I don't know if there are limits on what we can do here, if there's any kind of what the state code is, but Mr. Clark.
This is merely an amendment to the Township Code. All of the other codes, including the two that Mr. Mariani mentioned, are available to the township in the appropriate circumstances. I think what Mr. Bennett has done by wanting to update this section is this is when we want to enforce a certain part of our code. Mr. Bennett and his staff are not by law able to enforce the criminal code, Mr. Bennett and his staff are not by law able to enforce things out of the environmental code. Those are done by other agencies. Criminal code can only be enforced by the police department or other law enforcement agency, and the things from the environmental code can only be enforced by the Department of Environmental Protection. What we're simply doing here is beefing up Mr. Bennett's ability to fine people if they're littering. This doesn't in any way, shape, or form prevent us from pursuing any of these other avenues if the situation warrants.
Okay, well, even with what Mr. Bennett is trying to do, and I understand exactly what he's trying to do, I'm looking at Title 18, Chapter 65, Mr. Clark, where, and I can see the limitations, but it also says local police can work with that. But I don't see it mentioned where the second offense can be up to $10,000.
But Title 18 cannot be enforced by Mr. Bennett. Title 18 can only be enforced by police officers. Title 18...
It says local police.
That's the criminal code. Mr. Bennett is not a police officer. He's a code enforcement officer.
But he can call a police officer and say, go over there and say...
Certainly.
And we can get up. My concern is really anybody that would do that to the environment.
Sure.
I mean, you got to put a leash on these kind of people.
Right.
And these kind of fines put a leash on them.
And no, I think that's good. All good points. I agree with you. Mr. Bennett certainly and his staff know, if they see something that's relatively small, they can enforce it themselves. If they see something larger, they're calling a police officer, a DEP, or both.
Thank you. That was my concern. You answered it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Public comment? Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, so this would be ordinance 12-4. Okay, is there a motion to adopt ordinance 12-4, revising Chapter 120, Section 6, optional payment of fine, and Section 7, violations and penalties?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is another amendment, this one for signs, revising Chapter 209, or zoning code, Section 45, signs, and subsection 5, and other restrictions on signs. This is specifically focused on signs you see on vehicles, trucks, and things like that. Mr. Bennett is here again to focus on this.
Good evening again. Yeah, these signs seem to be popping up on trailers and on vehicles that are unregistered, unlicensed. They're just parked on the side of the road for the specific purpose of advertising. So this way they elude getting a sign permit, and so this is a way we can kind of control and keep some of the signs, permitted instead of just parked all over the place on street corners and all over the place.
Okay. Let's see, comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
This is something we've talked about for a while. You see it a lot in shopping centers. Different businesses are using it to advertise. I know a few street corners that have them as well. So this is something that we've been working on for a while. So it's something that we definitely need to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I had.
Mr. Rocco?
I have no questions. Thank you.
No, and certainly this is something, and it becomes sort of a touchy subject with some businesses because they want to do special things. They're having a sale, they're doing some this, doing that, and they want to add signs to get attention. And obviously, we want businesses to succeed in Falls Township. However, we also have to make sure that it doesn't turn into, visual pollution of signs everywhere, and just sort of somebody putting up a bigger sign because their competitor across the street has a bigger sign, and it gets out of control and it gets out of hand. And it's interesting when you look at other townships, you drive through other townships, other communities, there is a difference when you see signs and how those signs are displayed and where they're displayed. And you can only have a certain number of them. They can't be over a certain size. Maybe in some places they can only be on the actual building. They can't actually have a standalone sign. I know Mr. Bennett, this is an issue that he's been kind of focusing on, whether it's electrically controlled signs or this one with, his vehicles. And as Mr. Dent said, you see this on the big panel trucks, the size, large trucks. They have sort of the company on the side, and the truck just stays there. It's not designed for business. This is not designed to affect, somebody who's a contractor and they have their name painted on the side of their vehicle and they park it in front of their house. That's a work truck. They're using that to go to work in the morning, to go to their job. They come back at night. That's fine. This is for the people that park that vehicle out It's not registered. It's not licensed. It just sits there, day after day, week after week, month after month. And, it's clearly at that point not a work vehicle. It's a sign. Just has wheels on it. That's all. And so, so that's what we're trying to focus on here. Any public comment needed? Yeah. See no hands. All right. This will be Resolution 12-5. Revising Chapter 209 zoning, Section 45 signs, and subsection 5 other restrictions. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 12-5?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right. I think you'll be back a little later on. Are you, I guess you're back with issue 5, or are you with 4 or no?
Oh,
No, I was
5.
going to say. All right, item 4 is adopt, well, wait, hold on a second, Mr. Bennett. Let's just, why don't you just stay there? We'll just do 5 now. Is that okay with everybody? We'll just skip number 4 and 5 while Mr. Bennett's here. That way he doesn't have to, kind of go back and forth. We'll skip to agenda item 5, which is another change to our ordinances. This one revising the Universal Construction Code, UCC Ordinance, Chapter 109. Okay. All right, Mr. Bennett, you want to explain the reason for this?
Yeah, at the end of every section of the code, it indicates what type of fine and the amount of fine of what it would be. And in on Chapter 109, it never did at the end of that section say that it was a $1,000 fine for a violation of the building code. It's always been enforced as a $1,000 fine, so this is merely just to clarify the fine, so when you get to court, you don't have to jump through 10 books to find out where the fine actually is.
Okay. So an oversight when the code was written, it was added everywhere else, and this section just wasn't put in. Okay, and this is specifically regarding the building code. It's not it's right. Okay. All right. Okay. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway.
No comment.
Mr. Snipes.
No comment.
Mr. Dents.
Nope, it's an easy one.
Mr. Rocco.
I have none. Thank you.
No, I have none either. Any public comment? See no hands. All right. We're doing these a little out of order here. This would be 12-6.
7?
Well, we're skipping. Yeah, we'll do 6. Technically, the other one's supposed to be 6. But that's okay. So this would be an ordinance for the Township of Falls revising Chapter 109 Uniform Construction Codes. Is there a motion to adopt Ordinance 12-6?
So move.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, we'll back up one. Item 4, consider adopting an ordinance amendment for no smoking at the township playgrounds and pavilions, revising Chapter 172. This was, obviously, the country has changed over the past 10, 15 years regarding where you can smoke, where you can't smoke. With the Pinewood Pool, we've designated smoking areas for people up against the fence, sort of away from where a lot of people are. Would tend to congregate where the kids are. This is kind of the same idea. People that are smoking in the township parks, trying to move them away from areas where children are, at least 50 feet away from playground areas, the pavilion areas, dog park, skate park, in any of our township parks, whether it's the large park or even any future parks we have where you have playground equipment. There was an issue over the summer with 2 adults who get into an altercation, almost a little bit violent. A parent who was asking someone who was smoking to move away from the playground area because their child didn't want their children exposed to smoke, and the individual who was smoking took issue with the request to move away, and things didn't get too out of hand, but it was enough for us to take a look at this and really realize that, unfortunately, there are people out there that don't. Yeah, not necessarily that they smoke. Obviously, it's not a great habit. We know that, but aren't going to be considerate of the people around them, especially when you're talking about children. Let's see. I don't know if I think I stole some of your thunder there, Mr. Gray. Is there anything you want to add in this, or any?
No, that's everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Comments or questions for Mr. Gray or for the solicitors regarding this change of the ordinance, Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
Okay. Any public comment needed? See no hands. All right. This would be Resolution 12-7. All right. revising Chapter 172 regarding smoking at township parks and playgrounds. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 12-7?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Mr. Harvey, technically it's ordinance
did say-
12-7.
I
I
did
believe
say-
you said resolution.
Did I? I apologize. I thought I said ordinance.
It's an ordinance, so it's fine, but just so the minutes should be clear that it's ordinance 12-7.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Okay, the next item on the agenda would be ordinance 12-8, which is changing the authority or adding to the authority of the Shade Tree Commission. Mr. Gray, you've worked a lot with the Shade Tree Commission. Give us an idea of how this is changing and how we hope this will help us.
Yes, what the Shade Tree Commission will do, they'll have the opportunity to review the plans, the land development plans for any developer that will be coming into Falls Township. They will be able to review and comment on any plans relating to the trees that are being planted, the sites that they're going to be put in, and anything else related to the trees specifically. They're going to have their meetings before the Planning Commission meetings, approximately 1/2 hour before, and then any comments that will occur at the Shade Tree Commission meeting will be relayed to the public, to the Planning Commission meeting later that night.
Okay? And the idea of having the meetings on the same night, because they weren't originally on the same night, they met on different nights. The idea of having them on the same night is for a developer who wants to come in, it has to come before the Planning Commission. We didn't want to add another meeting for that business or that company, that they have to come to another meeting to this township, to meet with this committee, then they have to come back at a different time to meet with this committee, trying to make things a little easier for them. It's obviously starting up a business is difficult enough, and we're trying to make it a little easier for them, while at the same time, allowing this board, which is a very good board of volunteers who have a lot of knowledge in this area, giving them a chance to have their expertise shared with the Planning Commission, and then those recommendations be passed on to us. Okay. Comments or questions for Mr. Gray regarding this ordinance 1208? Mr. Galloway?
No, it sounds like a good idea. No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No, it's a good move forward, thanks.
Mr. Dents?
Only comment is a lot of this started with the Eleanor Roosevelt project.
Right.
Where there's a huge field with houses backing up that never had trees in the field. When they built the renovation there and did the addition, we required them to plant trees as per the ordinance. And then there was a lot of confusion of who wanted trees. Some residents didn't want trees behind their house now, and it could have been avoided had this been in place then. So this is a good move.
Right,
to
the types of trees.
hopefully
and
fix that.
things
The
like
types of
that.
trees, all of it.
Right,
There's a
yeah.
whole lot of confusion with that.
Okay. Mr. Rocco?
No.
Any public comment needed? See no hands. All right, so ordinance 1208, amendment to Chapter 79, Shade Tree Commission, Section 5, Authority of the Commission. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item number 7, minutes for September 18th, 2012. Board members have the minutes before them. Comments or questions or corrections regarding the minutes? Mr. Galloway?
No comments.
Mr. Snipes?
I have no changes. Excellent minutes once again, Mrs. Bull. Thank you.
Mr. Dents?
None.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
No, I have none either. Okay, is there a motion to adopt the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, engineer's report is dated October 12th. It is for September. Mr. Sullivan, what's in the news this month?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 2012 road program is underway with storm sewer installation continuing on Louise Drive and Winding Way. Soccer field rehabilitation at the community park started last week. They've installed the erosion controls, silt fence, things like that, and they've sprayed the fields with weed killer to kill any grass or weeds that are still there. They will then strip all the topsoil, put new topsoil back down, and then they're going to sod both fields. The senior center also started. I believe it was Monday. So they're just getting started, and the first thing they're doing is the site work. They'll be building a detention basin out front, and from that point on, they'll move on to the building.
Okay. All right, comments or questions for Mr. Sullivan? Mr. Galloway?
No comments.
Mr. Snipes?
I might come back in a minute, not at the moment.
Okay, Mr. Dents?
Can you tell us about the baseball field again, that abandoned-looking baseball field down at the ballpark? Or down at the boat ramp?
The contractor's made some soil amendments that should help grow the grass now. I have a meeting with them tomorrow morning to see what their plan is, how they can move forward.
But we'll still be able to use it in the spring, you think?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I had.
Mr. Rocco?
I had one question regarding the boat ramp. In your minutes, or in your notes here, you said you're going to pull the ramps at the end of the month? Of the dock, I'm sorry.
They're usually scheduled to be pulled on October 15th, but as long as the weather holds out, we'll leave them in place. So it might be the end of the month, it might be a little bit later.
If the dock isn't in, are they able to use the boat ramp if they want?
You can use it. You can always lower the boat in. It makes it a little bit more challenging. You don't have the dock to sort of walk out onto.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the original plan we had, and again, this is sort of something, as we're doing this every year, we're taking a look and tweaking our operations. The original plan, I think, was what, April 15th?
April 15th to October 15th.
To October 15th. That was recommended by someone to Mr. Sullivan's staff, who does a lot of boating. That's what he felt was the best way to do it. But I mean, I've heard from some fishermen who say March is a great time to go out and fish for a certain kind of fish. I'm not a fisherman, so I'm not sure which fish to go out and look for. And then obviously if the weather is good, I mean, last year with the winter we had, we theoretically could have left them in all year.
Yeah, last year was warm.
The danger, of course, is it's difficult. You can't, these, ramps or the docks are enormous, and you can't just sort of go in and lift them out. Our people don't have the ability to do it, so we have to have a contractor come in and do it. And so we can't just sort of leave it in, and as soon as we hear the weather report say there's going to be a bad, snow or it's going to get cold, then rush somebody down. We can't do that. So, and they could be damaged if you have, if you do have ice that comes down the river, you have other things that come down the river, big storms, and you have debris and things like that get trapped behind them, it becomes a headache. So we're still working, but yeah, I know we had talked about a little bit, I talked to Mr. Stoll about leaving them in a little longer and seeing, maybe just play it by ear, and if maybe by the end of October, it's still really nice, and we leave them into November a little bit. So,
Okay. That's all I had, thanks.
Mr. Snipes, did you have any?
Yes, I realized I did want to ask about the senior center. We had a wonderful groundbreaking just a short while ago, and I wondered is there actually an actual construction start date? Do we kind of know what that might be?
That was Monday.
That was Monday.
Yes,
All right,
was.
I missed that.
Yeah, they,
So we're off and running.
site contractor's on site and he's working, yes.
Good. All right, I haven't been there to see it, so I'll stop by.
I noticed drove by today, there's a backhoe out there today, and they had already sort of, was kind of leveling out the area right where the addition's going to go, and so I was very happy to see that. I did want to ask you, Mr. Sullivan, you mentioned regarding the rehabilitation of the soccer fields. The original plan was to sod one and seed one, and we're looking now, I think you said we're going to sod both?
I did say that.
How did that happen?
It's, we made some minor changes to the plans. Had conversations with the contractor. He would prefer to seed both fields or sod both fields. So we've made arrangements and some minor tweaks to the plan so that without any cost change, plus or minus, to sod both fields.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so it's
good thing.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that work. I appreciate that.
So I automatically won our bet, I guess, right?
Something like that, yeah. I think I lost. We all win, so it's okay.
That's right. There you go. That's a good attitude. We all win. Okay. Any last comments or questions?
None.
Any public comment needed? All right. See no hands. All right. Is there a motion to accept the engineer's report dated October 12th, 2012?
So moved.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Bill list is the next item on the agenda. The bills this month amount to $1,400,182.71. Of that amount, of that 1.4 million, a little over 1 million is salary and benefits, and obviously we have, expenses, things like the road programs and things like that that take up the rest of, or a good chunk of everything else that goes on. Comments or questions from board members for Mr. Gray regarding the bill list? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
None. Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Mr. Dents?
None.
Mr. Rocco?
None.
Okay. And I have no looking, I was looking for the fuel cost. a little over $20,000 just in fuel costs for the township. So it gives us an idea of, talked about money and spending money and things like that. So, let's see. And I thank Mrs. Rukoff and the finance staff. We don't thank them enough really for the work they do putting this together and keeping the township running smoothly. So, any public comment needed? No? Okay. So, is there a motion to pay the bills the amount of $1,400,182.71?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen, hold the board, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Gray, do you have a lot for manager comment?
4 items.
All right, let's switch because we do have an executive session we have to have relatively brief, but let's let the manager go ahead and do his thing first, and we'll come back to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just 4 items tonight. First item is a letter from Charles Charland dated October 10th, representing Exelon, requesting an extension on their project until December 31st, 2012. The board is asked to consider this extension.
Okay. Comments or questions for Mr. Gray? Okay. Is there a motion to accept the letter or grant the letter of extension until December 31st, 2012?
Yes, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I have a letter from Mr. Thomas Hecker dated October 3rd, representing Viking Associates, requesting an extension on that project until December 31st, 2012. The board is asked to consider this extension.
Okay. Comments or questions?
No.
No? Is there a motion to grant the extension to December 31st, 2012?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have a letter of request for JB Hunt Transport, a request to extend their land development project until February 4th, 2013. The board is asked to consider this extension.
All right. Questions? Comments?
None.
Is there a motion to grant the extension till February 4th, 2013 for JB Hunt Transport Incorporated?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Beacon provided a quote for employee assistance services from September 1st, 2012 until August 31st, 2013. Beacon has provided this service for many years to Falls Township. The board is asked to consider approving a 1-year agreement with Beacon in the amount of $1,988.50.
Okay, and Beacon's, I know what Beacon is because they do a lot of work in schools and other government entities, but for people that don't know what Beacon is, Mr. Gray, what's kind of service do they provide?
It's an employee assistance program where if employees have any type of issues, stress or financial or marital or any other type of problems in their life, they can call Beacon 24 hours a day. They have a hotline number, and they can talk to someone confidentially, and they can provide assistance or counseling, whatever it may take. We have used their services in the past, and they do a good job.
Okay. Yeah, I know at schools, the Beacon is used for, staff, but also if there's some kind of tragedy at the school involving a student or even a teacher, some kind of, horrible thing that happens, Beacon is there to offer assistance for counseling, grief counseling, that kind of thing. So they're a very well-established company. And as Mr. Gray pointed out, the quote this year is actually less than what we paid last year for the service. So a little under $2,000. Comments or questions from board members?
No.
No.
Okay. Is there a motion then to approve the 1-year agreement with Beacon for $1,988.50?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. Is that it, Mr. Gray?
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, we're going to have a brief executive session, all right, so we'll adjourn at this point. Okay, we'll reconvene our meeting at 8:21. Mr. Clark, can we have a summary of our executive session, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, during the executive session, the board discussed a matter of potential litigation.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to do board comment at this time. Any volunteers who want to go first? We'll start. Mr. Snipes, why don't you?
No comment this evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Mr. Rocco?
Just a reminder that Tuesday, November 6th is Election Day, so please get out and vote. And thanks for a good night.
Okay. Mr. Galloway?
No comment.
Mr. Dents?
I have nothing.
Okay. Just a few things. I know Mr. Kinney mentioned this earlier, but I want to thank all the people from Historic Fallsington Incorporated who organized and helped operate Historic Fallsington Day this past Saturday. It was a very big success. It was a great day for in terms of weather. A lot of people out there. I was out for a while, and I know the Falls Township Fire Company also did their open house. They always piggyback that. So, and that kind of also reminding people about fire safety. This month is usually when, all the fire companies, not just here in the township, but all over the place, do fire safety awareness. In schools, they have open houses, and you can go, and I'm not sure, I know at least one of the companies, or two of them, I think, already have their open house. I'm not sure what Levittown's is. But it's also a good time to remember to check your smoke alarms. Okay, typically you do it when you turn the clocks back or forward or something else, but check your smoke alarms. If you have difficulty getting to your smoke alarms, especially those who are elderly who can't reach them, you can contact the fire marshal's office here, contact your local fire company. They will gladly come out, and they will absolutely make the change for you in terms of even updating your alarm, or if you don't have one. Okay, make sure you can make that call, and they will gladly do that. That's it's something they enjoy doing. Obviously, it's something that makes their jobs easier and saves a life, hopefully. If it comes to that, obviously we have been, I think, pretty fortunate in this township regarding those kinds of tragedies. We had a sad one, earlier, but this year. But hopefully we can keep those kinds of emergencies to a minimum. And so just check the smoke alarms and carbon monoxide or anything else you might have in your home. Want to bring up for recommendation to one of our boards, resident of Falls Township, Bob Hedden, who put in a few weeks ago to be on the Community and Economic Development Commission. Mr. Hedden was an active volunteer firefighter for a while, is active in the community in a variety of ways, is on one of our other boards, and expressed an interest in being on our Community and Economic Development Commission. And I wanted to bring his name up for appointment to that board. There are a couple openings, and one of the openings is started technically in 2010 and goes through 2015. And so I'll make a motion at this time to nominate Bob Hedden to the CEDC for that term running through 2015.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And in terms of boards, we have quite a few boards with vacancies. Our Disabled Persons Advisory Board has 3 vacancies on it. There's still one more on the CEDC. There are a couple openings on the Environmental Advisory Council. There are a couple openings on the Historic Preservation Commission. And so I think we have these posted on the website, and I believe we do. If
Yeah,
not, we'll make sure it's updated. And I know I've gotten some complaints. I know Mr. Rocco addressed it last meeting. The channel and the cable or the website are up and running. I know we had a problem with the channel for a while.
Yeah, it has been experiencing problems recently. Mr. Markey has been working on it, so it should be up and running. If there are problems, he is aware of it. He's getting them fixed.
I've noticed it's up and running.
Okay. Okay. All right. And lastly, as Mr. Rocco mentioned, Election Day is November 6th, which is a Tuesday. It's actually a meeting night for us. It's what we would usually have our meeting, the first Tuesday. Typically, as we have in the past, the habit has been here at the township, the practice has been to move the meeting one night back to the first Wednesday, which would be November 7th, the same time, And is there a motion in favor of moving the meeting to November 7th, the first meeting of the Board of Supervisors for November?
Yeah.
So
I'll move.
moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. And that's all I had. I want to thank board members and the professionals and the staff here at the Township for all their hard work. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.